What you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer.
I'm sorry, dude. I know it's tough, especially when it's your parents, you know. The good thing about my parents is they were just as gullible as everybody else's parents. But I guess where I started doing the show, my dad kind of questioned everything. So, and I kept him up to date on what was like fake videos and AI coming and all this stuff just when I would talk to him randomly. And he knew the topic of the show. So the only good thing that happened out of all that is they were still just as gullible, like I said. But every time he saw something that was like, wow, this is crazy, he would always send it to me and ask me if it was real. Can you check and see if this is real? Can you see if this is real? Is this a real video? So that worked out, which now they've passed, but AI and shit's getting worse. Chat bots are getting worse. Pages are getting worse. They might not, if they were alive right now. They might fall for some of that shit, but it's tough when it's your parents and family and people you care about. It's easy to call somebody a retard and talk about how stupid they are when it's a random person, but when it's your own family and you know them, you know they've been conned, man, it makes it hard. Star of the Burt Lunch show. He would be more successful if he started a TikTok and said, I'm Burt Lynch and this is Burt's Lunch, and just started reviewing what he had for lunch every day at noon. Everybody's okay. It's a bunch of cosmetic stuff that I had to try to bend and put back in place and pop back together. It don't look half bad right now, but the thing probably weighed like 60 pounds, to be honest with you. It was a yearling. That's right. B-U-R-T. That's the way he expects everybody to spell his name. If you haven't been following my TikTok, I think I came up with a good idea for some videos. Let's roll the intro first, and I'll tell you about them. You guys tell me what you think.
Hey daddies, it's me, the Linda Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Bird. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Welcome. Damn, my fingernails are dirty. How do you keep your... When you're working on stuff, how the fuck... I hate seeing people's, like, dirty fingernails. Especially, like, Scott Wadgell's, the poop-colored fingernails. Anyways. How do you not get grease? Anyways, I've been working on vehicles. I like to work on vehicles. I didn't for a long time. Or I stopped for a long time because it reminded me so much of my dad. But I'm in a better place now. I like working on vehicles. So if you haven't been following my TikTok, I've got a bunch. I own like 7 or 8 vehicles right now. And most of them aren't very valuable, right? They're like cheap, daily drive, or something you might use as like a work car or something like that. So recently, I've been messing around with one of them, which is my pickup truck, the Ranger. So I had to put a fuel pump in it, pull the bed and all that stuff, put it back together, whatever. I got it running and drove it to where I live because it was on a piece of property that my family owns. But I got it to where I live, and it got a leak and I guess it's the thermostat housing technically. Anyways, it got a leak. There was like a hole rusted out of it. So I thought, you know, the part's like $30. I could just buy the part and that'd be interesting. But I wonder if I can fix it. So I did a couple videos. I took it all apart and I just cleaned it up and got some JB Weld and just patched it up. Just see if JB Weld will hold. How long will it hold? Will it even hold? And I put it back together and it did hold. So right now that's fixed. But it's got some other issues, and some of the other cars have other issues. Not like major issues. They all run and drive. They've got like small issues. So I thought maybe a cool video for TikTok would be, I'm going to take ChatGPT and trick it into being an auto mechanic. I'm going to tell it to pretend like it's an auto mechanic with 30 years of experience, and it knows about all this, and it has access to all the data on the internet about these types of things. And then I want to feed the symptoms of something that's wrong with one of the vehicles into it. And then whatever it tells me to do it to fix it, I'm going to do that. And we'll see if it fixes it. Do we think ChatGPT could replace a mechanic? Not as far as like turning wrenches and shit, but like, I'm going to feed you the symptoms. Car is doing A, B, and C. And then you tell me to do X, Y, and Z. I'll do it and see what happens. I think that would be a cool set of videos. Maybe not, but it can't hurt to try, right? I mean, all the cars are probably worth like, even if I blew one up, it wouldn't be the biggest loss. They're probably worth like a couple grand, right? I've got like a 94 Ford Ranger, and I've got a 98 two-door Cavalier, and I've got my Jeep, which is probably the most expensive car that I like. It's probably worth $5-6 grand. I don't want to fuck up my Jeep, just so you know. And I've got my dad's old conversion van, and I've just got a bunch of them. And I think if I tell them to act like they're the service advisor or a technician, the master technician, you tell me what to do, I'll go get the parts, the tools, the whatever. And I also want to tell them we're on a tight budget because I don't want it to like be like, replace the engine. I can't afford that. But we're on a tight budget. We just got to get it running. We got to get it home, or until we can make, further changes. And whatever it recommends, I'm just going to do it. What do you think, chat? You think that would be a good set of videos? AI mechanic or something, AI master tech. I don't know what to call the series. So far, You know how they have those videos that are like GRWM is like the acronym, and it's Get Ready With Me. So far, I've been doing videos called Get My Shitbox Car Repaired With Me. I think is what I enabled it and made the acronym or whatever. That one did good. It got thousands of views, so I don't know how the second one's doing. I just posted it today where I actually repaired it, but we'll see. Someone told me that at a bar that they used to work at, the owner of the bar, we were talking about JB Welds. Okay, if you don't know, JB Welds like a 2-part like metal infused epoxy. Basically, you mix like a cream and a hardener up together like you're mixing Bondo or epoxy or something. You put it on there, and it makes a substance that's almost like metal, or it feels like metal, I guess. Let me go over here so I can log in. It feels like metal, and then you can grind it, sand it, machine it, drill it, right? So it's not too bad. I like JB Weld. There's a bunch of other knockoffs, but I use the brand name. It's called JB Quick, and it sets up in 90 minutes instead of the 24 hours or what you usually have to wait for. Anyways, in the comments, I want to read you the comment. If I can get just, let me log in. Hold on. All right, so that's logged in. Let me go to notifications. Okay, here we go. Listen to this comment. So we're talking about JB Weld. Oh, let me stop my video. So we're talking about that in the comments, and she says, or he, I don't know. This person says, I have a friend that used JB Welds. They JB welded a broken tooth back in their face 10 years ago. And they say it's still good. So they took this 2-part, let's see, JB Weld. They put this 2-part, I don't even know what it calls it, epoxies and adhesives. They took JB Weld on a broken tooth. This JB Weld, this is what everybody talks about when they talk about JB Weld, right? It's high temp, paintable, sandable, drillable, water resistant, oil resistant. Used on wood, metal, concrete, brick, ceramic, plastic, composites, PVC, and fiberglass. It is this. Okay, 2 tubes. You mix it together, make a paste, and use it. It's good at like 5,020 PSI. 1 square inch of JB Weld has enough tensile strength to hold 5,020 pounds. So I said, ha, 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 I bet it's still holding strong. And they said, I thought maybe there was like a punchline or something. So I was like, ha, ha, it's probably still doing good. And they said, I wouldn't have done this, but he owned the bar that I worked at, I bartended at. And he would run around and show us the tooth that he had glued back in with JB Weld, all proud, like he had somehow hacked big dentistry, like the industry, like big pharma, big dentistry. Is that not insane? I don't know that I would ever JB Weld something back in my face. I did have a buddy one time that came over. You know that they make like this moldable fake tooth stuff. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but basically it's almost like silly putty or something, and you put it in like scalding hot water and it gets like semi-soft, and you plug it up like where you're missing a tooth and like shape it or whatever, and it's like tooth colored. You shape it or whatever, and then like leave it in there, and it's supposed to be like a temporary, I guess partial. It's not supposed to stay in forever, but it's supposed to be there for like use for like a couple weeks or whatever. I had a buddy one time that was having tooth pain, and he's like, oh, my tooth shattered and the nerve's exposed and I want to cover it. So he come over to the house and he's like, I need you to do this for me. I can't do it. We fucking heated it up. I put gloves on, snapped them like I was getting ready to do a fucking proctology exam, heated that shit up, put it in. I even put like some striations and different coloring and shit in. You take a little bit of coffee and put it on there to make it look like it's not bright white, so it matches the rest of your teeth. And I stuck it in there. He said it lasted for a few weeks. I don't know about JB Weld though. It's like an industrial. It's like an industrial compound. Like I don't. You mix it up, it turns this gray. Then you put. Oh, that's exactly what I was working on the other day. It looks like it. I don't know if JB Weld is it, but whatever. I've noticed that most products like this are known to cause cancer in California. That's always on the warning label. Anyways, it did hold. It did work, but I think the ChatGPT mechanic series might do good if I can get it. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a really, really good idea for TikTok. It seems like the first few people they show it to. Like, I think that'd be a really good idea for like people that are kind of like mechanically inclined or maybe interested in fucking in AI as well, or the limits of AI, or maybe people that want to laugh, they might think it's funny, like the idea about AI fixing a car. But if they show it to, a 12-year-old that's looking for fucking horse girl memes, she's not going to interact with it. So even if you have a really good idea, sometimes the first few people they show it to are not going to be interested in your video, and it just fucking tanks. But if they happen to show it to, the first few people they show it to are into cars or AI or jokes or whatever, and they fucking interact with it right off the bat, then you can get a pretty good jump on it. But if they show it to someone who would never be interested in this video anyways, which honestly is bad on their part, they should be trying to show the videos to people that would be interested in that video, because it makes the videos do better. It helps with their advertising. It helps them with their retention. It helps them with watch hours. It helps them with everything, right? But for some reason, sometimes they just fall right the fuck on their face. And then other times, they take off and the right person finds it. So I don't know. It is what it is. But we might be the first people to have AI working on cars. We'll have to wait and see. What else we got? Everybody's been talking about how this article just kind of pissed me off. I'm going to read it to you. It comes from Mother Jones. Everybody's been asking the question, why did we bail out Argentina? Why? Why did we do that? Like, we're America first. We're about American farmers. We basically said fuck every other country from Central and South America, right? Why the fuck are we bailing out Argentina? And no one could put it together. Like, it doesn't even make sense. And then they immediately reduced the price they did a fucking holiday on the price on their soybeans and fucked us. Fucked us without even taking us to dinner first. They just fucked us over. Well, it turns out the guy who recommended that is Scott Bessent, right? That's Trump's economic guy. Scott Bessent. That is probably the guy that he's going to put in charge of the Fed eventually, as soon as Jerome Powell's tenure expires. I think that's in the summer of 2026, maybe. His good friend just happened to benefit from this wildly. So it says a $20 billion U.S. rescue package. I believe that too. Trump is really good friends with, what's his name? The guy that brought the chainsaw and gave it to Elon Musk. But this seems fishy right here. A $20 billion U.S. rescue package is a gift for a hedge fund manager with ties to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Last week, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, announced a $20 billion package to rescue the Argentinian economy. The risky taxpayer financial deal, which involves trading U.S. dollars for Argentine pesos, has little to no upside for ordinary Americans or America, the country. Like, basically, we gave them $20 billion of our money. And our money is not the strongest, but it's definitely not weak. It's not falling. It's not, it's pretty stable, right? We gave them $20 billion. And we said, well, you just give us $20 billion in pesos and we'll hold on to them. That way, when you're back on your feet, they'll be worth money. But who knows? They might fall on their fucking face and we lose all our money. Who knows? Well, it has very little upside for America as a country or everyday Americans. And they fucked it, our farmers. Argentina is not a significant U.S. trading partner. Now, a lot of people have pointed out that the guy that's in charge of Argentina, is a Trump-like dictator. He was at CPAC. He's literally the one who gave Elon Musk that stupid fucking chainsaw. And Trump doesn't have many friends in power, so he takes care of his friends in power. Argentina's economy, long in turmoil, has little impact on the United States whatsoever. So even when their economy's in free fall, it doesn't really affect the United States. It's not like if the UK's economy was all fucked up or Japan's economy was all fucked up. Argentina, their economies fall fucked up all the time. However, Besant's announcement had massive economic benefits for one American. Not a group, not an investment. One American by far is benefiting more than anybody else in this fucking deal. Who is it? It's billionaire hedge funder Rob Citrone, the co-founder of Discovery Capital Management. He's also a friend and former colleague of Scott Bessent. A fact that has not been previously reported in U.S. media outlets. Citrone, by his own account, helped make Scott Bessent very wealthy. Since Milei, a right-wing populist, became president of Argentina in December of 2023, Citrone has invested heavily in Argentina. Citrone has bought Argentina debt and purchased equity in numerous Argentine companies that are closely tied to the performance of the overall economy. Due to Argentina's massive debt load and chaotic economic history, in 2023, Argentina's inflation rate was over 200%. Citrone purchased Argentine bonds with an interest rate of nearly 20%. Citrone has declined to detail exactly how much of the $2.8 billion he manages is invested in Argentina. Citrone, who is also a minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, so obviously he's not doing bad, right? He doesn't need a fucking government bailout. Minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers is effectively betting on Milei's right-wing economic program, which emphasizes deregulation and sharply reduced government spending. Where is that happening at? Trump. That's the same thing Trump is doing, and Argentina just tried to do it and fell on their fucking face. We had to come bail them out. Citrone viewed the probability of default as minuscule. That's his own words when he did this investment. He says that Argentina will lead the golden decade for Latin America. This is the guy here. In an interview with Bloomberg, the founder of hedge fund Discovery Capital Management revealed that he will increase his investments in Argentine assets. Okay? Even though Argentina has defaulted on its debts many times in the past. All the fucking time. They default, they go under, they do this, they fall into poverty. All the time in Argentina. He says, I think it's probably minuscule that they default now. In the short term, this appeared to be a savvy investment. After taking office, Milei fired tens of thousands of government workers, cut spending on welfare and research. Again, what does that sound like? Fired tens of thousands of government workers, cut spending on welfare and research, and achieved fiscal balance. Inflation was reduced to around 40%, still horrible, 40%, which spurred economic growth and foreign investment. Argentina's economic rebound contributed to Discovery Capital's 52% return in 2024. So in 2024, he made 52% on his fucking hedge fund as a return. That's almost unheard of. Give this guy a bailout, right? Am I right, chat? Then it all came crashing down. The measures slowed economic growth and unemployment spiked to nearly 8%. Millions had a harder time making ends meet after Milei reduced or eliminated subsidies for transportation, medicine, and other necessities. Again, same thing Trump's trying to do, or the Republicans are trying to do. Milei's popularity slumped, leading to speculation that his party could be routed in the 2025 midterm elections. Again, other people are saying Trump gave this money to Argentina to make Milei look better, like, hey, I got friends and the economy is going to be bailed out by my friends, so he could win these midterm elections for his party, okay? Which would hamstring Milei's ability to implement his agenda. This created an economic panic with investors dumping the peso and liquidating other Argentine assets. So a massive sell-off, like a run on the bank, but a run on a country. Milei has desperately attempted to keep inflation in check. Last week, Argentina's central bank spent more than $1 billion to shore up their peso. But Argentina was running out of foreign currency. That spelled trouble for Centrone, who's invested quite a bit of his hedge fund in Argentina. Then Besant and the Trump administration came to the rescue, floating a $20 billion dollar economic package that helped stabilize Argentine peso and functioned as a political lifeline for Milei. Literally, Trump and people from his admin were like, well, he's got a tough election coming up, so we went ahead and sent him that $20 billion. You're not even trying to hide it? No? Okay. In early September, days before Besant's announcement, Centrone purchased more Argentine bonds. Why would he do that? So when it looked like everything was going to fall apart, it looked like Argentina was going to go under, it looked like Milei was going to go under, the guy he's banking on, probably would lose the midterms, wouldn't have support from the rest of the government, and potentially their entire economy collapse. Centrone purchased more bonds. That's weird. It's like being on a sinking ship, and you're on this ship and it's sinking out in the middle of the ocean with no lifeline, and the water's filling up. Everybody's panicking, jumping off the ship, and you're taking buckets from the ocean and putting them in the ship right before someone figures out that, hey, there's a pump to pump out all this water. But you know there's a pump. You know the guy's getting ready to turn on the pump, so you're like, fuck it. I'm already in it. In early September, days before Besant's announcement, Centrone purchased more Argentine bonds. Besant's personal and professional relationship with Centrone has spanned decades. In a May 14th appearance on the Goldman Sachs Exchange podcast, Centrone revealed how he delivered a financial windfall for Scott Bessent. They were both working for investor George Soros in 2013 when Centrone convinced Bessent and Soros to bet on the U.S. dollar against the Japanese yen. Quote, I think there's special times every 5 or 10 years where there's really spectacular trade in investment that we then will concentrate in a meaningful way. 2013, the dollar yen, when we made over $1 billion long dollar yen. And in fact, we discussed it quite a bit with George. And I kind of convinced George and Scott Bessent at the time to go big in that. And Scott says I'm responsible for 75% of his bonus at Soros, kind of jokingly over that time. A leading Latin American economic publication describes Centrone as a friend of the Secretary of the Treasury. They're citing government sources reported that Centrone has a personal relationship as well as a past working relationship with Scott Bessent. Centrone has also reportedly leveraged his relationship with Bessent to gain access to Trump, according to CE. This is a publication from Latin American. In November, Centrone gave a case of 4 red wines to Milei during his visit to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach in his first meeting with Trump. When Argentina's economy began to falter in April, it was Centrone who intervened before Scott Bessent to advocate for an IMF agreement with Argentina. So it's this guy that went to Scott Bessent and said, hey, Argentina's starting to falter. Who the fuck are you? Just an investor? Scott Bessent subsequently played a key role in convincing the IMF to extend a separate $20 billion currency stabilization package. That package ultimately proved insufficient. So the first $20 billion the IMF sent didn't even work. But the U.S. is like, fuck it, we'll send another $20 billion, see what that does. Shortly after the IMF deal was secured, Scott Bessent traveled to Argentina to meet with Milei and other top Argentine officials. It was an unusual choice for the Treasury Secretary's first foreign trip. The very first trip that our Treasury Secretary takes overseas to anywhere as the Treasury Secretary. He goes to Argentina. Citron arrived in Argentina at the same time. Weird. Meeting with Milei just before Bessent. During those meetings, Bessent emphasized U.S. support for Argentina's economic agenda. Scott Bessent's September 24th announcement thus far has had the desired impact, increasing the value of Argentine assets, including bonds, stocks, and the peso. It has helped tremendously that the U.S. has come in to support Milei, and it will pay dividends for the U.S. strategically. Where? Where the fuck is Argentina going to help the U.S.? Whether the U.S. improves the prospects over the long term is a separate question. Propping up the value of the Argentine currency beyond what the market will support with yet another influx of foreign currency gives wealthy Argentines an opportunity to cash out. So this is like a pump and dump, right? Dump all the money in, everything flies back up. Now my buddies and all the billionaires can sell off everything, and that way if it falls next time, they're not left holding the bag. The Argentine elite now have the ability to convert their peso assets into dollars and move them abroad, away from Argentina. This phenomenon, known as capital flight or a pump and dump, if we're talking about digital assets, is why the previous IMF bailout package proved insufficient. So when the IMF sent $20 billion, it shorted up for a second, but then everybody got their money out because they knew it was going to happen again. And it did cause it to happen again. Discovery Capital did not immediately return a request for a comment about Citron's role in securing the U.S. assistance package for Argentina. Another overlooked aspect of the rescue package is the role of the organizers of the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, an influential right-wing political group. In November of 2024, shortly after Trump's election, key CPAC officials, including Matt Schlapp and Mercedes Schlapp, founded a new lobbying firm called Tactic Global. This is the same group that organized CPAC Argentina in December of 2024, an event that featured Milei, Laura Trump, and other right-wing luminaries. CPAC has long played a key role in Trump's political operation. Explain to me how the America First people are bailing out Argentina and Argentine billionaires. How is that America First? In February 2025, Tactic Global began representing the Argentine government as a foreign agent. According to the filing, Tactic will serve as a liaison between Presidencia de la Nación de la República Argentina and its counterparts in the U.S. Tactic will coordinate meetings between officials of the two countries and offer strategic counsel to the secretaries of Argentina. The contract specifies that Argentina pays Tactic $10,000 a month. Tactic's global official name is Tactic COC because its parent's company is COC Global Enterprise. Leonardo Scaterucci, an Argentinian businessman and lobbyist who lives in the United States, is a chairman and CEO of COC Global Enterprise and a principal at Tactic Global. In April 2025, Matt Schlapp traveled with Citron to meet with Milei and other top Argentine officials, according to a news report. They arrived together in a private jet in Scaterucci's private jet, a striking black Bombardier Global 5000. Also, participating in the meetings was Soledad Cedro, the managing director of Tactic Global and the CEO of CPAC Latin America. This person once worked for Argentine intelligence. Of course he did, which may explain why Tactic Global's contract was routed through the Argentine Secretariat of Intelligence. More recently, CE, the publication, reported that Barry Bennett, a former Trump advisor and current Tactic Global principal, became directly involved in securing the U.S. rescue package. Although CPAC promotes itself as America First organization, Tactic Global represents not only the government of Argentina, but also Kyrgyzstan and Vietnam. After Scott Bessent announced his rescue package for Argentina last week, CPAC promoted the deal on its social media accounts. Fuck our farmers. Fuck our $20 billion. Fuck America First. We're bailing out Argentina. Kind of wild, right? For the America First crowd. Seems like Scott Bessent and CPAC are taking care of their donors, but fuck everybody else. America First? Who's that? Never heard of her. I didn't even know she was sick. Fucking wild, dude. I don't know. Made me upset. It is what it is, I guess. And then in other news, Portland is burning down. It's a war zone. It's so horrible. It's literally one half of one block. Literally has people there chanting. And I don't know if Portland's going to make it out. Okay, this might be the end of Portland. Might have to wipe the entire Oregon state off the map. I don't know. Oh, audio. Hold on.
Today, there have been
It's not working on my end either. Oh, there it is.
protesters who come out here. So we are about a block away from the Portland ICE building. Over my shoulder, you can see an encampment where protesters have been occupying just a spot on the sidewalk. Today, there have been maybe 24 people.
They literally had an hour-long dance-off today. The New York Times pulled a bunch of communications from ICE to the local police, where ICE was literally saying, one of them was like, they pulled like the 3 days before Trump called it a war zone and said that he needed to send in the troops. And it was ICE saying, nah, it's kind of low energy, kind of boring. We don't need anything. We're good. Thanks for checking on us.
Where protesters have been occupying just a spot on the sidewalk. Today, there have been maybe 24 people, protesters who come out here, they say, to provide moral support to people being processed in this facility and to bear witness to what the federal government is doing. These protests are really contained to about a 1-block radius. It is a very isolated part of town. There is a wide gap between the version of events here that you are hearing from President Trump.
Portland is burning to the ground. It's insurrectionists all over the place. The place is burning down, and they pretend like there's nothing happening.
What the city and state, including Portland prosecutors and police, say is these are very peaceful, very small protests, and that the city, which has a long tradition of political dissent, knows how to control crowds. That began a legal battle that continues right now. The state and the city sued the Trump administration. What we know from court records filed is that almost nightly through all of September, federal employees said, things are really quiet. We don't need your help.
Almost every night, all the way through September, federal agents at the ICE building were saying, no, all quiet. We're good. We're good. We're good. Trump is on Truth Social saying it's a fucking war zone. People are being attacked. People are going to get killed, and that he needs to send in the military. Those two things aren't the same.
Court records filed is that almost nightly through all of September, federal employees said, things are really quiet. We don't need your help. According to Portland police, federal employees they talked to use phrases like very low energy. There's nothing going on. The crowd is very small. That was in the
very uneventful. This crowd is very small. Nothing's going on. We don't need help.
days just before.
Kind of weird. Kind of weird that fucking Trump plays it up as if it's fucking Baghdad.
Before President Trump posted on Truth Social that he wanted to send the military into Portland. things are definitely tenser here than they were before the president's social media post. When I talk to law enforcement, prosecutors, and elected officials, they all say they are very worried about seeing a repeat of 2020, when just as racial justice protests here seem to be ending, or at least becoming much smaller, President Trump issued an executive order allowing the use of pretty intense federal forces to protect federal buildings. That led to a month of very violent, damaging protests in downtown Portland that drew tens of thousands of people and led to a lot of violence. 2020 took a real toll on Portland. Homelessness spiked. There are still buildings downtown that are boarded up, and crime went up, as it did in many U.S. cities. What you hear from city and state leaders now, including in law enforcement, is things are getting better. At the same time, they all acknowledge this is a city that has problems. The mayor and the governor have both said if the federal government wanted to provide more help, say, helping them with rampant public homelessness, helping them find solutions.
Oh, no. Homeless people, we just bust them away. We just bust them away, right? But we will come and beat the hell out of a fucking pastor for some reason.
Big social problems like fentanyl and drug abuse, they would really, really happy to have that. But that is not what the feds are offering right now.
Kind of vastly different from the way Trump describes it and the way even the ICE agents there describe it, right? Very low energy, small crowd. We don't need any help. Uneventful. Nothing's happening. We're good. Thanks for checking on us. No, we're all good. Don't worry about it. And Trump's like, there's a war going on in Portland. They're burning it to the ground. It's literally not even a full city block. I understand that people might be nervous, especially with Portland's history and talking about like the George Floyd stuff. It's literally like 30 people. Not even a whole street, much less a block.
Mr. President, in addition to the oil crisis, the inflation crisis, and the crisis in the Middle East, we are also facing a dairy crisis. A dairy crisis? Well, that must involve milk. Go ahead, boys. Spill it. Well, that was pretty good, Mr. President. Listen, dairy prices were artificially high throughout most of the 1970s due to a dairy shortage. And when the government tried to intervene, the dairy prices went down drastically, and all of this has been killing profits for dairy farmers all across America. Well, as many of you may know, I was a farmer myself. Yeah, we know, Mr. President.
I think this is how government cheese came about. I don't know. I just clicked on it. It looked interesting.
It's the only reason you got elected. And farmers can be a very proud people. They don't like to ask for help. But I'm going to give the dairy farmers of America all the help they deserve. We're going to pour $2 billion into the dairy industry. That money will help stabilize dairy prices and help the farmers recoup the losses they've had over the last few years. But if we put that much money in the dairy industry, isn't that going to cause an overproduction issue? These dairy farmers are going to produce way more milk than they can possibly sell to the consumer. And to combat that problem, we're going to tell these farmers that the government will buy any excess dairy products that they can't sell, but not milk. That spoils too easily. We're going to buy up cheese from these farmers, millions of pounds of cheese, and we'll save that cheese for a rainy day. You want to create an emergency rainy day cheese surplus? Well, Mr. President, even though I think you're trying to milk this for all it's worth, you're the big cheese here, so we have to do what you say. Don't try to butter me up. That's not going to get you a promotion. You're not going to be here in 4 years, so I'm not worried about that. Now, you all know that I was elected to cut out government waste. And am I to believe that the federal government is currently sitting on more than 100 pounds of old cheese as a result of stupid financial decisions from the Carter administration? Actually, sir, it's more than 500 million pounds of cheese. Most of it is sitting underground in Missouri, but it's starting to grow mold. It's starting to deteriorate. We don't know what to do with it. My suggestion? I say
Missouri cheese caves.
Toss it all into the ocean. Let the sharks and whales eat it. I mean, that may cost.
I've had blocks of cheese, and my parents and people I knew called it government cheese, but I don't think it was because I was born in 89, and in the early 90s is when they stopped these programs. I understand it's a big 5-pound block of cheese, and it was the cheese I had was good, and everybody talks about how good it was, but
some ecosystem problems, but are you mad? We can't just throw all that cheese in the ocean. That would be more wasteful than sitting on it. Plus, marine life doesn't eat cheese like that. Go to a biology class. Now, I've caught a lot of flack for making cuts to the food stamp program during my first term. People are claiming that hunger is a major issue in America right now. Well, we're gonna solve the hunger issue and this old cheese issue all at the same damn time. Millions of Americans are going hungry in this country every day, mostly due to their own poor life choices. Meanwhile, the federal government sits on hundreds of millions of pounds of old cheese, mainly due to the mistakes of the Carter administration. Well, folks, there's no need to cry over spilled Carter milk. I have authorized the federal government to release this old cheese to nonprofits that will distribute it to the needy all over.
Yeah, they do technically still have it. The nationwide, I read. It's what's the program called? TFAP, Temporary Emergency Food Assistance Program. They do still have it, but it's nothing like what the program used to be. And I think it's ran by like a private company now or whatever.
Country. Introducing government cheese. And once you get past the odor due to the excessive mold, this stuff is pretty good. It slices well and it melts even better. And I'm going to give it mostly to poor black communities. Sasha! What the fuck? Oh, cheese. So that 40 acres and a mule, that's just not fucking happening at this point, huh?
Government cheese. Everybody talks about how good it was. I don't know. It literally used to come. I understand there's big blocks of like Velveeta and shit like that, but it literally used to come in like USDA cheese, like packaging and everything. You can't buy it in stores. It's literally from the government. Anyways, the other thing I want to talk about, let me see if I can find this video. I think it's the Washington Post is running a very dangerous set of an investigation into a set of articles. Okay. I don't think they mean anything by it, but I think the Trump administration knows exactly what it'll cause. It's dangerous for people to latch onto this and to believe it at face value. And the Trump administration had all they needed to step in and clarify and clear stuff up and answer the questions that the Washington Post had, but they chose not to. And the reason they chose not to is because they know the effects that it'll have. Basically, the Washington Post, without understanding how the VA works, or the VA system, or the VA disability, went into this system to try to figure out how disability claims work, how people get paid, how this, how that, and the other. A lot of what they're saying, you guys know that I fought with VA disability for 15 goddamn years, right? I don't think they understand how it works. They don't understand how the system works. They don't understand what it's set up for. They don't understand all the hoops you have to fucking jump through, all the documentation you have to provide, all the evidence, all the doctor's appointments, everything that you fucking go through to get VA disability. And they're basically setting it up as, a lot of veterans just fucking flood the system with claims, then they get approved, then they basically get money for the rest of their lives. And that's just not the way it is. The head of the VA should have responded and cleared up how the process works, why the process is the way it is, and how to keep it. But instead, they chose not to answer. I don't know if you guys remember, one of the Project 2025 things was tightening restrictions and taking away veterans' benefits because they cost the country too much money. That's a Project 2025 thing. If the Trump administration leaves that out and doesn't answer questions and doesn't clarify and doesn't tell anybody, people are going to read these articles and get the mentality that it's easy, that it's manipulated, that everybody does it, and they're just fucking it over the taxpayers. And it's not fair. because when someone's eligible for something and someone's not, it doesn't matter the hoops you had to go through, how you get it, how you had to qualify, how you had to prove it. It's just they have and we have not. And it's really bad. I think that this guy, the guy that runs the Anti-Fascist Book Club, Chris Goldsmith, he's a veteran. He gets disability. I think he does a really, really good job explaining it. So I'm gonna let him explain more of it. So here we go.
Washington Post is publishing a multi-part investigative piece, a deep dive into veterans who are...
By the way, it says how some veterans exploit $193 billion VA program due to lax controls. I've been in the VA system ever since I got out of the military. The last thing I would describe it as is lax controls.
Committing fraud when they apply for benefits. And this piece, the way that it's written, is frankly, I think, incredibly damaging.
An honor system. In no way, shape, or form is it a fucking honor system, okay? The only honor system part of the VA is that in combat, tons of shit doesn't get reported, doesn't get written down, doesn't get... As long as you're in combat, you actually are in combat, and you report something that happened to you in combat, and there's no evidence to say it didn't happen. Like, let's say on June 8th, you say that my truck blew up, and there's evidence that you didn't go out on June 8th, and there was no explosion on June 8th, and there's nobody to... Then it's denied. But if you say on June 8th that my truck blew up, and it shows that you were on a route on that day, and it shows that there was an explosion, and someone didn't write which truck blew up, then they give you the benefit of the doubt. That's one. And the second thing is the PACT Act. It would be veterans are coming home with all these mystery fucking diseases that clearly were caused by something overseas. It almost 100% is the fucking burn pits, because a lot of it has to do with like respiratory and like other things that are brought on by respiratory stuff, like brain tumors and shit like that, right? And they say now, because veterans for years and years and years and years and years and years and years were dying due to mystery illnesses from burn pits and being overseas and using burn pits, and it's so fucking hard to prove this brand new fucking disease that no one even knew about came from burning shit in the desert, that finally, with the PACT Act passing, they're giving you the benefit of the doubt. If you're in the right area, at the right time, around burn pits, and you have one of these diseases that's been linked to burn pits, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You don't have to know exactly what day it was on that you burned this trash and what was in it and how long you were there. You were in the right area to get one of these. It's caused by these, and you got this that is caused by these. Those are the only two things that are honor system, and it's not even the honor system. Like, you still have to remove all reasonable doubt from it. Everything else has to be verified and verified and verified and verified and verified and verified. I can't tell you how many times they told me they wouldn't cover something because I didn't go to sick call enough. By the way, in the military, going to sick call, going to med call, going to all that shit, going to see a doctor instead of training is frowned upon. Heavily frowned upon. But then when you get out and you say, hey, I had this issue that was caused in the military, and I had it when I was in the military, and they're like, why didn't you see a doctor? Anyways, here it is.
And it's going to help the Trump administration enact the part of Project 2025 that is the most ambitious. I mean, the authors of Project 2025 wrote that the veterans benefits thing is like the third rail. Now, to be clear, I don't think that the individual journalists who worked on this story, that is their intent at all. But I do think that was...
By the way, there is no just claiming something and saying I have it. Right? Like, I just can't say I've read all the symptoms of PTSD. I have them all. That's it. That's like the first stage, just saying, hey, I think I have this thing. You have to go be diagnosed from a doctor. Without a diagnosis from a valid doctor who went to medical school to diagnose these things, it's an instant denial. You have to have a diagnosis. Then you have to connect it to your service. Not only do you have to be diagnosed with it, it's not good enough to, like, you were in the military, you got out last year, and you got PTSD that started while you're in the military. You still have to connect those two things.
Strategic decision that was made by the Trump VA when they refused to answer questions. Those unanswered questions prevented the journalists from having full understanding of what they were writing about.
The Trump administration knows exactly what they're doing by not responding to this, not defending veterans, not giving a thorough, this is how the system works. It doesn't matter if I claim 10,000 things for a disability. Let's say I claim that my fucking big toe was broken and it's never felt right. It still has to, all this has to be verified. You have to go to a doctor. They'll do x-rays. They come through. They check your range of motion. They take fucking everything.
Now, I want to emphasize, I personally subscribe to the Washington Post. I feel this is my obligation because I'm someone who interacts with journalists at the Post. I do respect these journalists. I am not one of those creators who says that.
Yeah, TBIs. Some doctors are fucking assholes about it. Like when I went for TBI stuff, they went all the way back and they're like, oh, well, you played football in high school and you were going to play in college and I'm sure you got concussions there and blah, blah. They try to link it to everything else besides explosions in the military. It was insane.
Mainstream media is dead. And if I had a problem with generating income for billionaires, I wouldn't be able to use this app, and neither would any of the people in the comments. So this is going to be like a little bit of a deep dive because this is a very nuanced story and it takes time to explain. So here's the problem. If you were to be a civilian who doesn't know about how veterans benefits work, or if you're a policymaker who cares, but this is not your area of expertise, if you were to read this story, you would come away with the general idea that there are a lot of veterans who are applying for disability benefits under fraudulent circumstances, that they are getting paid for disabilities that they do not have.
I think it's wrong to say there are a lot of veterans that'll tell you, hey, you need to apply for disability. And I think that's a good thing because there's this stigma around. I waited goddamn 10 years telling everybody I'm fine. Nope, this is something else. It'll go away. I'm good. While it was tearing me apart. It was fucking up my entire life. Everything. I was struggling with fucking everything, including drugs and alcohol. And it was horrible. All because I didn't want to, like a mentality thing. I didn't want to apply. I didn't want a label. I didn't want somebody to tell me something. And now I go and get it, and people that fucking don't like me are like, oh, he's faking, and he did this. He did like fucking, what's his name? Bert. People like that. What are you fucking talking about? I wish I could have been in the choir.
Or they are exaggerating in their disabilities. And you might come away with the idea that most veterans applying for disability benefits are exaggerating. Or to be generous, you might come away with the idea that veterans don't deserve the benefits, the compensation that they're getting. And again, to be fair to the journalists who wrote this, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, refusing to sit down with the Washington Post and explain and provide a narrative, that was a strategic decision by the Trump administration because it accomplishes two things. One, it allowed the Washington Post to produce a story that leaves people with these false impressions about veterans committing fraud. And two, it gives them the opportunity to say, oh, it's the Washington Post, it's the liberal.
They also in this article bitch about these companies that you pay that say, hey, we can get you through the system and get you the rating you deserve. And you pay the money. They're for-profit companies, right? Some of them you pay up front. Others are like work on the legal end and they take a percentage of your back pay or whatever. If the system was right, these companies wouldn't exist. If it wasn't so hard, if you didn't get denied all the fucking time, if they didn't discourage you and want you to fucking give up. It's not this magic money pot that everybody can just go stick their fucking hand in. The system's fucking horrible. Horrible to navigate through. That's why these for-profit companies say, hey, we can, if you pay us, we can get you through it and you won't have to touch it.
Bezos-controlled Washington Post that's coming after veterans, and those veterans, of course, deserve benefits. So they get to undermine faith in the VA, both in the minds of veterans and in the minds of civilians whose tax dollars do support our benefits. And they undermine all of our trust in the institution that is Washington Post. To be clear, I'm not saying that either of these institutions are perfect. I don't believe that there's any perfect person or institution, but I get all of my healthcare at the VA. I have gotten all of my healthcare at the VA since 2007. I used to really dislike the VA. I felt very uncomfortable there. I felt like it was a hostile environment. But at 21 years old, I was fresh out of Iraq and I didn't feel good anywhere. And the VA under the Bush administration was drastically underfunded and not at all prepared for veterans of the global war on terror to be stacked on top of World War II veterans who were still alive then, Korean War veterans, and all the Vietnam vets. The wait times for appointments was tremendous back then. The backlog for disability claims and payouts for those disability claims was tremendous. And it was very difficult for me as an Iraq veteran exposed to things like burn pits to prove that my burn pit exposure resulted in things like me needing to have surgery in my sinuses, or taking an inhaler, or taking 2 allergy meds, both in morning and night, because otherwise I can't breathe. When I had a random mass in my lung that they could not explain, I could not prove that it was from burn pit exposure. So Congress passed laws to make it easier. The PACT Act makes it easier for those exposed to toxins, whether it's burn pits or Agent Orange or nuclear waste or experiments. The PACT Act made it easier for people who are exposed to toxic elements to claim disability benefits for their ailments. Now, what the Washington Post story focuses on is the idea that
I think there's something wrong with my sinuses and shit, probably from burn pits.
when the benefits system was first set up after World War II, which is kind of its modern iteration, even though that's almost a century ago.
Yes. The system in its modern iteration was like a World War II thing. It should have been updated long ago, but it hasn't been. So in World War II, they basically took your injury and said, how long will this keep you off the factory floor if you go to work at a factory job? That's what we're going to pay you for.
That the original idea was to compensate people for hours that they couldn't spend on a factory floor. Meaning that if you were an amputee and you had to be some position that got paid less than a manual laborer, that you were compensated a certain percentage to fill the gap. So right at the beginning of the Washington Post investigative piece, they establish this. They say this is what the disability benefits system was built for. Now, that was true at a time, but now the modern understanding of what it is to go to war, what it is to survive war, what it is to serve even if you don't go to war, the training...
Not to mention how many more traumatic injuries and events and crazy shit that we are now surviving, where before you would have just died on the battlefield.
Experience the toxins that you are exposed to, those are things that cause you harm. And we live in an era of AI and automation and working from home. Disability benefits are not given to compensate you for not being able to physically stand on a factory floor like it's the 1940s or 1950s. Disability benefits are for veterans to be made whole. Now, as someone with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, which manifests in a variety of ways, but in the past it was, self-medication with alcoholism. And sometimes it means crippling depression for up to a year where I can't even work, let alone maintain relationships or live a healthy life in any way. If I could trade that away for my disability compensation, I would gladly do it. There is no amount of money that makes it worth it to have to live with post-traumatic stress disorder for the rest of my life. Now, if you read this Washington Post article and you didn't know about all of this, you might have read, oh, well, this person, because they're a disabled veteran, they get free healthcare for the rest of their life. So why should they also get those disability payments? Personally, I think that every American ought to have free healthcare. I think that we should be like the rest of the industrialized nations, the rest of the comparable democracies around the world. We should make it so that every American does not have to face the choice of crippling debt or debilitating illness. That is not a choice that makes you free, but it is a choice that makes you uniquely American. I don't think that anyone should have to deal with that. So that's my baseline. But I am someone who, thankfully had better and better experiences with the VA as time has gone on. It's been nearly 2 decades where I've been working on addressing PTSD and all of the other physical ailments that I have as a result of the 4 years that I served on active duty. But even with free access to comprehensive healthcare, it doesn't make the illnesses or the injuries go away. One of the secondary effects of PTSD and the stress and anxiety that comes from that, I have stomach problems. Without daily treatment, without daily medication, I get stomach acid coming up into my esophagus that creates inflammation, a higher likelihood of cancer, and it makes it so that I can't even swallow food. Now, I have tried many different medicines and treatments to address this, but the only one that works is one that also makes me more likely to experience dementia as I get older. This is not an illness that runs in my family, but it is an illness that seems to be caused by burn pit exposure. Now, the way that the Washington Post article is written, if you read that, you might hear about my disability and say, well, that doesn't stop him from working. He takes a medicine every day so he doesn't have to deal with the symptoms. What is he getting paid for? Well, I'm getting compensated because this is a life-changing illness that doesn't go away because I'm taking a pill. And again, my only choice, the only medication that I've found to fix this problem that, again, is a secondary effect of PTSD and or might be from burn pit exposure, decades from now, I might lose who I am because of dementia, because of the medicine that I have to take, because it's the only treatment that works. The veterans' disability system is a complex thing, and it used to be really inhumane for a lot of veterans. And it is still very difficult on a lot of veterans to get the benefits that they deserve. I can tell you, as someone who has experienced debilitating depression, that when I'm experiencing my worst symptoms and I do try to apply for disability benefits, or did try to apply for disability benefits, the crippling depression made it impossible. So the idea that it's too easy for veterans to get these benefits is just simply wrong. And I don't put this on the Washington Post. I know at least one of the journalists behind that story. I put this on the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, a political appointee of Donald Trump, who made the strategic choice of not answering questions, of not sitting for an interview, so that the Washington Post could push a narrative that was helpful to the Trump administration and Project 2025 of undermining support in the VA and having the benefit of also undermining the support of Washington Post, drawing anger towards the Washington Post for a bad story, so that they could then use that story, that narrative, to start taking away benefits from veterans, to save money for billionaires, because that is the ultimate goal of the Trump administration. Donald Trump said as much this weekend. And just remember that 1/3 of the federal employees who are furloughed right now, they're veterans. And Donald Trump wants to make sure that they're not paid. That guy has had it out for us for a really long time. And now the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, is helping him screw us over. Washington Post is publishing a multi-part investigative piece, a deep dive.
It's pretty bad, okay? The VFW wrote a review, or the head of the VFW wrote a review. Here it is. It says, VFW to Washington Post, veterans disability benefits are not loopholes to exploit. The following letter from the VFW national commander was submitted to the Washington Post today. To the editors of the Washington Post, your recent article, How Some Veterans Exploit a $193 billion VA Program Due to Lax Controls, October 2025, is not just a disservice to veterans. It is a dangerously misleading piece that feeds into damaging stereotypes and ignores both moral and legal foundations of the Department of Veterans Affairs disability system. Let's be absolutely clear. Veterans' disability benefits are not charity. They are compensation owed for injuries and conditions incurred in the line of duty, promised by a government that asks men and women to risk their lives and health, often irreversibly, on its behalf. These benefits are not some loopholes for opportunists to exploit. They are the very least this country can do for the people it sent to war repeatedly, especially after more than 2 decades of sustained conflict without a draft. Your article leans heavily on inflammatory anecdotes and edge cases, because they had like one guy who said that he could barely walk, then they had a video of him like on a trampoline or something. Like, these are very rare edge cases. The same with like when we're talking about like voter fraud, right? Your article leans heavily on inflammatory anecdotes and edge cases, portraying veterans as system abusers while ignoring the structural reality. Combat wounds are not the only occupational hazards of military service. The daily grind of service, exposure to toxic environments, repeated concussion, sleep deprivation, moral injury, sexual trauma, constant stress, and grueling physical demands leaves lasting scars. Just because a veteran wasn't blown up by an IED doesn't mean they aren't disabled. Invisible injuries like PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and toxic exposure-related illnesses are not new or suspect. We just finally stopped ignoring them. Every generation of veterans before this one suffered in silence, and many died without care or acknowledgement. To now say that recognizing these conditions is proof of fraud is not only illogical, it is cruel. The article also seems to misunderstand how VA disability ratings work. The system doesn't compensate based solely on whether someone can work. It compensates based on how a service-connected condition impairs a veteran's average ability to function in life and society. The fact that a veteran can hold a job doesn't mean their disability doesn't make daily life harder, more painful, or more isolating. If VA ratings were based solely on complete incapacity, we wouldn't see skyrocketing rates of veteran suicides, addiction, homelessness, or divorce, all of which are fueled not by fraud, but by the very real and too often dismissed cost of military service. Lastly, let's not ignore what this article really reflects. Veterans make an easy scapegoat for the elites of this country. We're a small percentage of the population. Many Americans are disconnected from the wars they authorized or ignored. It is politically and socially convenient to question the integrity of veterans rather than confront the true cost of 25 years of war. But the cost is real, and the obligation of those who bore it is not optional. If your investigative team wants to find waste and fraud, start with the contractors who overbill, the generals who fell upward, the executives of squandered programs, or the politicians who wave flags while gutting oversight. But don't you dare turn on America's sons and daughters who carried the burden of service and now ask only for the care and compensation that they were promised. We veterans kept our end of the agreement and will continue to demand that those who asked us to defend our nation do the same. Honor the contract. Sincerely, Carol Whitmore, VFW Commander-in-Chief. That's pretty good. Pretty good response, I think. We talked about this way back, maybe over a year ago. There was an article that came out that really pissed me off where they're like, oh, well, since 2000, the number of veterans that were getting some type of benefit through the government has skyrocketed. Yeah. What happened around 2000? Did something happen around that time? Was there like a long ass time from like the fucking 70s all the way up to 2000 where nothing really happened, and then post 2000 something happened? Was that something? We talked about that article almost over a year ago, probably. And I said they were coming for us. They're coming for it. They're going to try to change people's minds. They're going to do this. And it was part of 2025. Friday 2025 proposes several alarming recommendations that could significantly reduce veterans' access to health care. One would realign healthcare benefits to cover only service-connected disabilities or conditions, i.e. medical or mental health problems that were acquired or exacerbated by military service. Currently, once veterans prove they have a service-related condition, they can receive care for that problem as well as other conditions that they may develop. For example, a veteran whose leg was amputated in the military would not only have lifetime care for that problem, but also for the high blood pressure or cancer they develop in civilian life. The Heritage Blueprint argues for the Veterans Health Administration, VHA, to eliminate some clinical services that don't align with service-connected conditions. If this strategy to authorize care based on service-connected disabilities is taken to its logical extension, other care, like for an amputee's hypertension, in the example above, would no longer be furnished. There are 5 million veterans who have service-connected designation, and they all potentially stand to lose access for the bulk of their healthcare needs. 2 million veterans without service-connected designation could potentially be disenrolled from the VA healthcare entirely. Such a draconian concept accords with the Koch-backed group Concerned Veterans for America, whose Veterans Independence Act proposes tightening eligibility requirements for new enrollees at a certain date in order to reorient the VA back towards its mission of providing care for service-connected disabled veterans. It's also a goal espoused by the Heritage Foundation's budget blueprint for fiscal year 2023. 2025 plan would further require VHA facilities to increase the number of patients seen each day to equal the number seen by DoD medical facilities. It's a directive that disregards the stark differences between the two populations. Veterans are, on average, 58 years old compared with service members who have an average age of 28. Veterans are also far more likely to have multiple co-occurring medical conditions compared to U.S. service members. As a result, VHA healthcare, so they're trying to get us in quicker, faster, out. They're trying to take away other treatments for other conditions outside of just this one specific one that you came for, and they want to reduce the financial burden that veterans place. It is a burden. I'm not going to say it is. It's a financial burden that veterans place on the U.S. taxpayer and the U.S. government. But God damn it, that's the least you could fucking do. after sending us to fucking war for 2 goddamn decades. Financial compensation for service-connected disabilities is also set to be reduced. Project 2025 calls for a review of the VA schedule for rating disabilities to target significant cost savings from revising veteran rating awards for future claimants. Not only would these changes result in less money in the pockets of disabled veterans, but for those failing to meet the new standards, eligibility for VA health care would also disappear. Insane, dude. We support the veterans. We support the veterans. Oh, do you? Do you really? Does it seem like it? I don't know. That made me mad now, so. Either way, I guess that's it for me tonight. I think it's pretty fucked up. I don't know how responsible WAPO is. I don't know what they've researched, what they know, what they don't know. It seems like at a minimum, they could have found somebody that helps navigate the VA system, like one of these people that is a veteran that does get disability, and they run some of these like nonprofits or companies trying to help other veterans get through the paperwork and shit like that. Seems like that's the minimum they could have done. But instead, they're like, the VA won't talk to us, and this is what we found out from confidential informants, that people are abusing the system, and that there's a mentality that you should just approve everything. Where? Holy fuck, I wish I would have got that raider that had this mentality of approving everything. Because all I got was denial. We need you to see this doctor. We need you to go back over here. We don't, your time ran out when you filed this one, so now you got to start over and do this one. We got a new form now, and you didn't fill it out right. By the way, we're changing your login every goddamn 7 days because it's not like you couldn't remember the first password, so now we're going to make you have 7,000 passwords. Shit was insane. But the Trump administration did not want to speak to them at all and let them think what they think. So... he would not, they wanted comment from the VA, and nobody at the Trump administration or the VA would comment with WAPO. I think they could have done a really good job explaining how the system works, how the steps you take, how it's verified, how you go through this, how things that happen in combat are verified, how things that happen outside of combat are verified, how the PACT Act works, all that shit. There was no response. Until after it was published, and then everybody wants to jump on board. I don't know. Either way, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for joining us. I think the AI mechanic thing might be a cool video idea or series idea over on TikTok. Follow me on TikTok if you're not already. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Support the show if you want to at buymeacoffee.com/coldbeer. Make sure you go give Burt, B-U-R-T, Lynch, Burt Lynch with Burt's Lunch over on Rumble a thumbs down. You guys have a good night. We'll see you about the next one. Love you. See you. Bye. I can feel my blood pressure raising.
About if this douche happens to see this particular show, you don't have the fork and balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the fork and balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott.
Here we go, I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet.
And they say that I'm a lunatic. Well, listen, bitch, I came equipped with a quick wit and a 6th sense for the stupid shit.
Where my true believer?
Y'all need Jesus.
Praise the Lord, head to the extreme.
Oh, these false fucking prophets who profit off of gossip. Worshipping drums, cocking, begging for a throat deposit. Swinging fucking meat hammers like four in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped them to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, this is gonna be...
I'm trying to stay cool. We'll figure it out eventually.
What? I'll get my files. Wait, what are you doing? Stop. Fucking stop. Dude, come on. Seriously. This mom's an alcoholic. Oh, give me a... Oh, my God. Damn it. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Piss him off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets. You know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go. I think I started some shit. Piss him off. It's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets. You know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Round 3. Down goes Nino. Please say it isn't so. Got him backed up on the ropes, trying to ram it down his throat. Now things are getting rocking, he was doing so well. It's all over, hands on his shoulders, they ringing his bell. You got Frog News Network doing no damn research. They rework and copy on cocks that came first. Ninth inning, second string, and they acting like they know hitters. Assholes throwing bullshit, sending runs to the shitter. All this nonsense on my conscience, it's hard to sleep at night. Who the fuck is in my window with this time of the night? These parasites, these leeches, with all their secret meetings, teaching all you fucking cretins about baby-eating heathens. Believing in reasons with no meaning is bullshit. Will Bird motherfuckers out here busting the grifts. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen nothing yet.
You don't have those guts, cause you're